Number 4. Open your cabinet of curiosities. Don't be hoarder. The problem with hoarding is may end up living off your reserves. Eventually, you will become stale. If you give away everything you have, you are left with nothing. This forces you to look, to be aware, to replenish it. Somehow, the more you give away, the more comes back to you. Paul Arden. If you happen to be wealthy and educated, a life of 6th and 7th centuries Europe, it was fashionable. It was under Cameron, a wonder chamber. It was cabinet of curiosities in your house, a room filled with a rare and remarkable objects that serves as a kind of external display of your thirst for knowledge of the world. Inside a cabinet of curiosities, you might find skeletons, jewels, shells, art, plants, minerals, taxidermy, specimens, stones, and any other exotic artifacts. This collection often just posed but natural and human-made marvels, revealing a kind of mashup of handiwork by both God and human beings. They were the precious source of that what we think today modern museum, a place decided to study a history, nature, and the arts. We all have on test collection. There can be physical cabinet of curiosities, say living room bookshelf full of our favorite novels, records, and movies. They can be more like intangible museum of the heart. Our skulls lined with memories and played we have been people, we have been met, yeah, wondering things we have come across while doing our work and living our lives. The mental scrapbooks from our test and our test influence our work. There is not as big as a difference between collection and creating as you might think. I think a lot of winners I know to see the act of reading and the act of writing or executing on opposite ends and the same spectrum. The reading feed and writing, which feels a reading, and I am basically a curator, says the writer and former bookseller Jonathan Latham. Making books has always felt very connected to my book selling experience, that of wanting to draw people attention to things that I like to shape things that I like to into new shapes. Our text make us we are, but they can also cast a shadow over our own work. All of us who do creative work, we do get into it because we have good taste, says public radio personality Ira Glass. But that is a gap. For the first couple years, you make stuff if it's not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your test, these things has got into the game. It is still killer. Before we are ready to take a leap of sharing our own work on the world, we can share our taste in the work of others. Where do you get your inspiration? What stores or do you fill your head with? What do you read? Do you subscribe or anything? What site do you visit on the internet? What music do you listen to? What movies do you see? Do you look at art? Do you collect? What inside your escapebook? What do you pin the corkboard above your desk? What do you stick your refrigerator? What's genre work you admire? What do you steal ideas from? Do you have any heroes? What do you follow online? What's the practitioners? You look at your own field. Your influence are all worth sharing because they clue people into the who are you are and what you do. Sometimes even more than your own work. You are really only as good as your record collection. DJ spoke. No guilty pleasures. I don't believe in guilty pleasures. If you fucking the like something like it. Dave Grohl. About 20 years ago, a trustman in New York City named Lenson Molina started collecting little bits of pieces of art and unique objects that he found discarded along his route. His collection, the Tash Museum, is housed on the second floor on the Sanitation Department Garage of East 99th Estate and now feature more than 1,000 paintings, posters, photographs, musical instruments, toys, and other ephemera. There isn't a big unifying principle to the collection, just what Mullah likes. He gets submission from some of the fellow workers, but he says what goes on the wall and what doesn't. I tell the guy, just bring it and I will decide it if I can hang it. At some point, Molina painted a sign from the museum and that is treasure on the trash by Nelson Mulia. Transport driving is one of the jobs of the artist finding and treasure in the other people's trash, shifting through the debris of our culture, paying and attention of the stuffs that everyone else is ignoring and taking inspiration from the stuffs and that poor people have tossed aside for whatever reasons. More than 400 years ago, Marcel J. Montaigne in his Easy on Experience wrote, in my opinion, the most ordinary things, the most common and familiar, if we could see them in their true light, one turn out to be greatest miracle. And the most marvelous example, all it takes to uncover hidden gems in a clear eye and open mind and willingness to search for inspiration in place than other people aren't willing or able to go. Notice that do not dump rubbish or garbage. We all love things that other people think are garbage. You have to have the courage to keep loving your garbage because that's what makes us unique is the diversity and breadth of our influences. The unique way is where we mix up and the part of culture, other the demand high and low. How to be exceptional? The first step is to stop trying. When you find something you genuinely enjoy, don't let anyone else make you feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. The pleasure you take the things you enjoy. Celebrate them. When you share your taste and influence, have you got to own all of it? Don't give it pleasure to self edit too. Must don't Don't be lame guys to be record stone are going on others more authentic punk. Rock band. Don't try to hip or cool. Being open and honest about what you like to be. We connect the people who like those things. Do what you do best and link the rest. Jolf Jarvis. Credit it always due. If you share the work of others, it's your duty to make sure that the creators of the work get proper credit. Creating work in our copy and paste is to rebels and retweets can seem like a fruity effort. Fragile, but it's worth it, and it's right thing to do. You should always share the work of others if it were your own treating and respect and care. When we make the case of crediting our sources, most of the concentrate and polite and original creator of the work. But that's only half of the story. If you fail to properly attribute work, that you share, you don't rob the person who made it. You rob all of the peoples you have shared it with. Without attribution, they have no way to dig deeper into the work or find more it. So, what makes for great ambitions? Attributions is the always providing context for you are sharing what your work is, who made it, how they made it, when and where it was made, why you are sharing it, why people should care about it, and where people can see some more that like that. Attribution is about putting little museum level next of the stuff you share. Another form of attribution that of often neglect in other we found that work we are sharing. It's always good practice to give a short shout out of the people's whose help to stumble onto good work and also leave a breadcrumb trail that people you are sharing with can follow back and sources of your inspiration. I have come across so many interesting people online by following via an HT link. I don't have been robbed of a loss of this connection. If I the grassland and meticulous attribution of many of the people I follow online and the most important form of attribution and hyperlink pointing back and website to creator to the work. This sends people who come across the work back and original source. The number of role and internet people are lazy. If you don't include a link, no one can click it. Attribution without a link online boarded are useless. 99.9% of people are not going to bother googling someone's name. All of the rise question, what if you want to share something you don't know where it come to or where made it? The answer, don't share things you can't properly credit. Find the right credit or don't share. What attribution? First of all, what it is, who made it, and when, and where we can find more things like that, how you find it, we should care about it. Number 5. Tell good stories. Work doesn't speak for itself. Close your eyes and imagine your wealthy collection who's just entered a gallery and art museum. On the wall facing that you are two gigantic canvases is more than 10 feet tall. Both painting displays a harbor at sunset. From across the room they look identical, the same shape, the same reflection on the water, the same sun and same stage on the setting. You go the for the closer look. You can't find level or a museum. Check anywhere you become a obsessed with a painting, with your nickname painting and a painting bee. Yeah, you spend your going back and forth from canvas to canvas, comparing brush strokes, and you can't detect a single difference. Just as you go to fit a museum guide and someone who can shed light on their mysterious twin masterpiece, and head counter a museum walks in. The eagerly inquire as origins of your own new obsession. The curator tells that your painting A was painted in 17th century by a Dutch master. And what of painting B? You ask. Yeah, yes, painting B, the curator says. That's a forgery. It was copied last week by a graduate student in local art college. Look up at the painting. Which canvas looks better now? Do you want to take home? Art forgery is instant phenomenon. You might think that the pleasure you get from the painting depends on its color and its shape and its pattern, says psychology professor Paul Bloom. And if they're right, it shouldn't matter whatever it an original of a forgery. But our brains don't work that way. When shown an object or given a food or shown a face, people's assessment of it, how much they like it, how valuable it is deeply affected by what you tell them about it. In their book Significant Object, Joshua Glenn and Rob Walker recount an experiment in which they set on our test in hypothesis. Stories are such a powerful driver of emotional value and that their effect on any given object's subjective value can actually be measured objectively. First, they went out and thrift stores, flea markets, and yard sales bought a bunch of insignificant objects for the average of 1.25 euro subjects, and they hired bunch of writers, both famous and not so famous, to invent a story that attributes significance to each object. Finally, they listed each object and eBay. using a invented story as the object description, whatever they had originally paid for the object as execution is charging price. By the end of the experiment, they had sold $170.74 growth and thickness for the 3612.51 choice. To fake a photograph, you all have to do change the caption. To fake a painting, change the attribution. Elor Morris. Words matter. Artists love a trot out of tired line. My work speaks for itself, but the truth is, our work doesn't speak for itself. Human beings want to know where things came from, how they were made, who made them. The stories you tell about the work you do have huge effect on how people feel, that what they understand about your work, and how people feel and what they understand about your work affects how they value it. Why should we describe the frustration and turning points in the lab or all the hours of groundwork and failed images that precede the final outcomes? Asks artist Russell Sussman because relieved expectations aside, and audience is a human one and humans want to connect. Personal stories can make the complex more trivial, spark associations, and affect also things might otherwise leave on cold. Pictures can say whatever we want them to say. Your work doesn't exist the vacuum. Whatever you realize or not, you are already telling a story about your work. Every email you send, every text, every conversation, every blog comment, and every tweet, every photo, every video. You are all bits a piece of a multimedia narrative you are consultancy consulting. If you want to be more effective when sharing yourself, your work, you need to become a better storyteller. You need to know what a good story is, how Phil should tell one. The cat sat on the mat. It's not a story. The cat sat on the dog's mat is a story. John A. Carey. Structures is everything. In the first act, you get your hero up a tree. The second act, you throw rocks at him. For the third act, you let him down. Gregory Abbott. The most important part of a story is its structure. A good story structure is steady and logical. Unfortunately, most of the life is messy, uncertain, illogical. A lot of our raw experiences don't fit nearly into traditional fairy tale or a Hollywood plot. Sometimes we have to do a lot of cropping and editing to fit our lives into something to resemble a story. If you study a structure of stories, you start to see how they work, and once you know how they work, you can start telling story structure and flooding them it's with character, situations, and setting from your own life. Most story structure can be tracked back and to myths and fairy tales. Emma Quartz, a former storyboard artist, is a picture, outline and basic structure of a fairy tale as a kind of mad lib. You can feel the both elements. Once upon a time, there was a dash, everyday dash, one day dash, because of that, and until finally pick your favorite story and try to fill in the blanks. It's striking how often it. Philosopher Aristotle said a story had beginning, a middle, and an end. Author John Gladder said a basic plot is nearly all stories is this. A character wants something, goes after it despite opposition, perhaps including his own doubts, and so arrive at a win, lose, or at a draw. I like Grinder plot formula because it's also the shape the most creative work. You get a great idea, you go through the hard work and executing the idea. Then you realize the idea out into the world, coming with a win, lose, or draw. Sometimes the idea settles something, Sometimes it fails, or more often than not, it does nothing at all. This simple formula can be applied at almost any type of work project. There is initial problem, the work done to solve problem, and the solution. Of course, when you are to be middle of the story, as the most of the life are, you don't know it is story at all because you don't know how far into it you don't know how going to the end. Fortunately, there are the way tell open-ended stories where we acknowledge that we smack dab and middle of the story. We don't know how it all ends. Every client presentation, every personal essay, every cover letter, every fundraising request, they are all pitches. There are story of endings clocked off. A good pitch is a setup that three acts. The first act is the past, the second act is the present, and third act is the future. The past act is where you have what you want to, how do you come it, and what you done so far to get it. The second act is where you now in your work and how you work hard and use up most of your resource. The third act is where you are going and how exactly the persons you are pitching can help you and get there. Like a choose you on adventure book, the story chef effectively turns your listener into the hero who gets to decide how to end. Cut volunteer story graphs is like his beginning. Whatever you are telling, finished or unfinished story, always keep your audience in mind. Speak of them to directly to plain language. Value their time. Be brave. Learn to speak. Learn to write. Use speak check. You are never keeping it real. Your lack of proofreading and punctuation. You are keeping an unintelligible. Everybody love a good story, but good storytelling doesn't come too easy to everybody. It's a skill that takes a lifetime to master. So study a great stories and then go find some of your own. Your stories will get better the more you tell them. Talk about yourself at pages. You got to make your case. Kanye West. We all have been there. You are standing at a party, enjoying your drink, and when a stranger approaches, introduces herself, and asks the dreaded question, so what do you do? If you happen to be a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer or a plumber, congratulations. You may proceed without caution. For the rest of us, we are going to need to practice our answer. Artists have its roast. If your answer, I am a writer, for example, there is a very good chance that the next question will be, oh, have you published anything? Which is actually well worth asking, do you make any money of it? The way to get over the awkwardness, the question situation is stop treating them irregulations. Start treating them as opportunities to connect with somebody by honestly and humbly explaining. And it is that you can do. You should be able to explain your work and kind granddad, senior citizen, everybody is between. Of course, you always need to keep your audience in mind. The way you explain your work and your buddies at the bar, it is not the way explain your work to your mother. Hello, just because you are having to tell a good story about yourself doesn't mean you are inventing fiction. Stick to non-fiction. Tell the truth and tell with the dignity and self-respect. If you are a student, say you are a student. If you are a work a day job, say you work a day job. For years, I said by day I am a web designer, but right now, night I write a poetry. If you have a word hybrid job, say something like I am a writer who draws. I stole that bio from the cartoonist Saul Stramley. If you are unemployment, so and say so and mention what kind of work you are looking for. If you are employed but you don't feel good about your job, ask yourself why that is. Maybe you are in wrong line of your work, or maybe you are not doing the work you supposed to do being. There were many years where answering I am a writer felt wrong because I was actually writing. Wasn't not. Remember what the author Gregory Orwell wrote, autobiography is only to be trusted when it reveals something disgraceful. Have empathy for your audience. Anticipate blank shares. Be ready for more questions. Answer potentially and politely. All the same principle apply when you start writing your bio. Bios are not the place to practice your creativity. We all like to think we are more complex than two sentence explanations, but two sentence explanation is usually what the wants from the keep and short and sweet. Strike all adjective from your bio. If you take photos, you are not an aspiring photographer. You are not an amazing photographer. Either you are a photographer, don't get cute. Don't brag. Just state and facts. One more things. Useless, you are actually a ninja, a guru, or a rock star. Don't ever use trumps in your bio. Ever. Whatever we say, we are always talking about ourselves. Alistair Welsh.